I was once the leader of the pack. But now, I can't even control my own shadow. Chapter 9 Alpha is sneaking Daniel's POV. I felt restless with Shay at my side. We were on the bed we have shared for a long time with long passionate nights, but she failed to ignite the passion inside me tonight. What happened, baby? Are you okay? She asked me in her sickeningly sweet voice. It might have excited me some other day, but not today. I groaned and lifted her off me and got dressed, ignoring her protests and complaints. I simply marched out of the room. I need to go for a run, now. Images of Sierra dominated my thoughts. It bothered me that she didn't show any signs of jealousy when I was with Shay. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. My paws carried me towards an unknown destination. My eyes were closed and it felt like something was controlling me, and I let it control me. I felt too drained to protest. The power of magnetism was too strong, too alluring to be ignored. I was engrossed in following the scent that the joy of shift was so faint. Familiar path appeared in front of me, but I still couldn't recognize it completely until a house came into the view. Dave's house. My heart started racing at the proximity to my mate. My wolf shared howling inside me to go to her and make her mine. But I couldn't do that. I have to forget her. She can't be future Luna. Not now when she has lost her wolf. I wonder why my wolf still craves for her. Her wolf is dead then, what does my wolf want? There's nothing left. She's still our mate. He told me. It's great to be able to talk to my wolf again, but his words, I didn't want to agree with them. But her wolf is dead. I argued. Some wolves have human mates. She is human right now. She smells like a werewolf because you're still her mate. You still need her. Even after she lost her wolf. I want to reject her, but she isn't accepting the rejection. I told him, I won't be able to be with my new mate. Why is she doing this? I don't know. I think she still wants us. It's already a miracle that she survived in human form after transformation. Why do you want to miss this chance? She is not dead and she is here. In front of us. Why do you want to lose her? Because she won't be a good Luna. I told him sternly. As if you're a good alpha. I heard a voice that undoubtedly belonged to Sierra. I looked around, but she was not there. Maybe it was not Sierra's voice but my conscience. I shook my head and started running away from that house and into the woods as fast as my legs could carry me. I don't know for how long I ran. I was still full of energy and anger. Why doesn't she accept my rejection? It'd make things easy for both of us, but no. She has to be a clingy mate. I have to get rid of her as fast as I can. I have to break her so she won't dare to come back here ever again to fix her heart. She will regret not accepting my rejection. Sierra's POV. I looked around my room. Nothing had changed since I left. The room was exactly the same. Not even a piece of paper had traveled from one place to another. But it was clean. Not dusty at all. I used to come to this room. I heard Dave's voice from the doorway. He was leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed over his chest. He was staring at the wall behind me with a look of longing in his eyes. It made me realize how difficult it would have been for him. First Mom and Dad left him and then I. He was all alone. For how long? When did you find out Manny was your mate? I asked, frowning at him. I want to know how long he was alone. He had friends, but they were not enough. I knew that. At my birthday. But her birthday is the day after mine. She could have identified him as her mate that day. If that had happened, he would have been alone only for a week and not a month and a week. She was afraid that I would reject her if she approached me. He told me. I knew where her insecurities were coming from. But Dave is nothing like Daniel. It's true they both used to hang out, but Dave was kind by heart. Daniel is the most obnoxious person. The way he rejected me was enough to boil my blood. There I was thinking he'd get on his knees to apologize. How wrong was I? He's never going to change, but I'd make him. I will change him whether he likes it or not. She might be talkative, but she was never very confident. I told him. He nodded his head. His eyes finally came to settle on me. I smiled at him. You're tired. Go take some sleep. I'll take care of everything. To my aged extraordinaire, Mylan Nilben, hearts out thanks her unfailing patience, enthusiasm, He nodded and engulfed me in a hug. I love you, he said, burying his head in crook of my neck. I love you too, I mumbled. We stood there for a few seconds before he pulled away. Good night, sissy. Good night, Rowie. I smiled and walked towards the window to welcome cold breeze from outside. I watched as a big grey wolf disappeared into the woods. He was Daniel. I knew it. He thinks that he can break me, but he is wrong. I'm not here to be broken. I'm here to break. Daniel Wayne will be the one to regret, not me. What's special about today? He seemed to be in a hurry. I asked Dave, who was running towards his car as if the world was ending behind us. We've an outside pack today. He told me and I frowned at him. Outside pack? I asked out of curiosity. Rogues' attacks are increasing and our pack members are not trained enough. Thanks to Daniel. He growled under his breath, but I heard it and chuckled to myself. Which pack are you calling over? I asked, smiling at him. Blue Moon Pack. My eyebrows shot up in surprise and an unmistakably broad smile played on my lips. What? He asked when he caught my expression. It's going to be fun, I said to myself. What was that? You will see, I said in a cheerful tone. Silence settled inside car. I watched trees sprinting past us in a blur. This place has not changed much in a year. I hardly expected any change in a year. There are centuries to go ahead, to bring noticeable changes. I'm happy for Dave and Manny. Their happiness was all wished for. They have got the best mates. Not everyone is as unlucky as me. But now I think that was not my bad luck. That was a path to my destiny. One I could have never imagined of. See your mate? Dave asked out of blue. I was surprised at his question. I knew what he was talking about, and at that moment, lying to him or hiding the truth didn't sound right to me. You would get to know about it at one point or another. I wanted Daniel to tell him, but I was dead sure Dave would break his nose and I didn't want that commotion. I could make Dave promise me not to tell anyone about it. Yes, I nodded. I was thrown forward, but the seatbelt held me back as the car came to an abrupt stop. You were sort of expecting I would say yes. He was 90% sure. His reaction kind of threw me off guard. Then it hit me. An unfamiliar scent in the air. It was no one from this pack, but I could tell it was also not a rogue. The smell was actually familiar. I smiled as I recognized it. They have arrived. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylen Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The Blue Moon Pack. Dave nodded. For a moment I thought they were rogues. He let out a sigh. Wait, why didn't you tell me that before? He asked, looking at me, anguish clear on his face. What? I thought you'd smell it too. No, I mean, about Daniel. Why didn't you tell me later on when I asked you? You should have told me. That bastard. I want to beat this. Why did he suddenly remember? Language guy scolded him. He gave me a look of disbelief. That son of gun. He deserves to be. You don't have to say anything, Dave. Don't get angry. I know what he deserves, and believe me, I'm going to give him. I'm not back here for wasting time. I told him with a smile. He stared at me. Anger and frustration was still visible on his features. What am I gonna do? Relax. You don't have to do anything. I'm here to take care of problems. I assured him. But he at least deserves a million punches from me. His hands were clutching steel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He definitely wanted to use his fists on Daniel. But it was not the right thing to do. Don't worry about Daniel. He's my victim now. You're not going to interfere in this. I told him sternly. Dave frowned at me, clearly not impressed by what I said. You trust me, right? I played the emotional card. He nodded his head, but I could see battle in his eyes. He was mentally killing Daniel so brutally. Then let me take control of it. I don't want you to mess up with him and get kicked out of the pack. If you leave, I'll also leave, and I won't be able to accept his mistakes. I told him, carefully choosing my words. I couldn't let show any signs of misery or he would get angrier. He grumbled and started to drive again. You shouldn't be angry. I'm glad I left. Last year was actually good, I said, assuring him. No, and it was truth. How? He asked curiously. I will tell you someday. I answered and again stared out of the window. Chapter 10 The New Alpha Kyle's P. Oh, we are here, Kyle. My beta. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Informed me. I nodded my head looking at the surroundings. This is Moonstone pack. One of the best packs I've ever heard of. It was surprising when a member from the pack requested me to help them training because Blue Moon pack is the strongest pack. I've known Alpha of this pack. Wayne is a powerful man. From what I know, his son might have taken over the position of Alpha by now. Maybe Wayne's son is not strong enough to hold the responsibility of Alpha. 3 werewolves head towards our direction. My pack members, Jason, Will, Ellie and Don get out of the car. Don and will take out luggage while Jason and Ally follow me. When 3 werewolves approach us, I immediately recognize the short blonde one as Eric. Thanks Alpha Kyle for coming here. Eric greeted me and I nodded at him. I introduced him to my pack members one by one. He smiled at them and led us to his pack house to meet his Alpha. That was a huge mansion surrounded by guards. Its poke of power. How can such a powerful Alpha need someone to train his pack? There must have something gone wrong. Please wait here. Beta will be here in a few minutes. A maid came behind him with some drinks. Do you think it is a good idea? Jason asked me. He was not happy with the fact that we would leave our pack behind. But I believe my brother, who is now in charge until I return. Jason had always been the suspicious one. We should help other packs. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I think it's the right decision. I told him. But why should we leave our pack to train the worthless pack? Can't they come to our territory and get training? He asked, shaking his head in annoyance. That will mean calling problem. I told him flatly. Better than stepping in one. I ignored him. A strong scent hit my olfactory indicators, and I instantly knew it was an Alpha. Alpha of Moonstone pack, or should I say a failure. He had golden hairs while his skin was lessed, and for a werewolf, he clearly needed some time outside in sunlight, or he was a vampire. Alpha Daniel. This is Alpha Kyle from Blue Moon Pack. Eric introduced me to the blue-eyed man who looked gullible for his own bad. There was something about him not settling. His stats said anything but responsible. Can't blame Pack when it's Alpha's fault. I can throw some words here and there for him to realize how much of shame he is on his pack before he throws me out. Alpha Kyle. The blonde frowned. I knew he was the irresponsible man, but seriously, this guy doesn't even know there's Alpha of another pack in his territory. In his house. How can he keep check on rogues? Beta Dave had requested for Alpha of Blue Moon Pack to train the members of our pack because we are unable to cope with rogue attacks. He informed. Realization crossed Daniel's face, slower than I had liked. This man is really a failure for his pack. Where is Dave? He was supposed to be here half an hour ago. Daniel grumbled, narrowing his eyes at weaker wolf. Eric shrunk back. There was something at the mention of Dave's arrival that had instilled new energy in him. Could it be the Alpha was a gay having hots for his beta? That would be completely ridiculous. What about his mate? Dave is definitely a boy name and he can't be a she. Never in history a male would have male mate, and it's impossible. I knocked the thoughts out of my head and smirked to myself. Beta Dave is coming with his sister. They will be here in a few minutes. Eric informed Daniel. Daniel nodded his head and dismissed Eric. He opened his mouth to say something but was stopped by a shrill voice. My werewolf fears rang at that sound. Jason and Will also winced at my either side. I'm going to town with Lydia and Delilah. I won't be back until later evening. Keep your energy charged for night. Plastic Girl spoke. She had blood-red hair with streaks of brown, yellow, and green. She looked like a walking flower pot. Her dress looked like it had been colored with a rainbow. I couldn't blame my testosterone for my wandering eyes as they traveled north to south. She pecked his lips and then looked in our direction. I guess she is Luna of the pack. A mark crested on her neck, confirming my assumption. I smiled at her, fixing my eyes on hers only to find them eyeing me up and down. I could have self-conscious if I was not used to it. but it was really amusing to see mate of another alpha checking me out. It boosted my ego enough to bring a smug smirk on my lip, but Daniel didn't seem to be bothered by his mate. His eyes were on the door as if he was either waiting for her to leave or someone to arrive. Maybe Dave. Who are they? She asked with a smirk. Her eyes were glinting as she stared at me. And they call us pervert. It's unfair male werewolves are given crappy image when both sexes are equally horny. Right. This is Alpha Kyle from Blue Moon Pack. Daniel answered her, drawing his attention from the door. She just nodded her head. I'm Shay, Luna of Moonstone Pack. She extended her hand and I shook it. It was longer than a normal handshake. Not that I was complaining. This girl was really sexy. But she was taken, and if she was willing to offer something, why should I refuse? But I really don't want to be caught with Luna of the pack I'm supposed to train. And also, it'd be like attempting suicide. So I can't really be with her, but I surely can find someone else. I'll see you later, she told Daniel and glanced at me one last time before leaving. She purposely swayed her hips so the attention of all male wolves was fixed on her. Alphas are very possessive of their mates. I won't even let my mate go out without me, and he's letting other wolves checking out her butt. There is something wrong. I wanted to ask him about his Luna but decided against him. I don't want to raise suspicion because I'm sure this alpha has his brain in his knees. Daniel smiled at me. Let's go to office room, he said to me, and I nodded. Cole, deliver their luggage in guest rooms, he ordered, and a burly wolf boy nodded. And ask Dave to come to office room when he arrives. And Sarah, he stopped and looked at me, led them both to my office. His voice was tight and I suspected something. There was something I don't know. Daniel led us to his office while I introduced him to my other pack members. He was not good enough to take over the pack, but I felt he had a potential to rule them. Every alpha has. Why was he acting like a complete jerk was still a mystery to me. There is a feeling in my gut that this whole starts and ends with Shay, and it definitely has to do something with Beta. Either Dave is Shay's real mate and Daniel had snatched her from Dave, or Daniel is in love with Dave. Second possibility seems highly unlikely for the werewolf. But I can't draw any conclusion now. There is third party also, Sarah. There are many rogue attacks in my territory. The possessive alpha started. The way he said, told me that he's not a big fan of another powerful alpha being inside his territory. It seems that he didn't have even a slightest interest in calling me here. I was wishing hospitality, but I got hostility. Other packs are better than this one. Even though they are mostly weak, at least they have some decency. I think getting under this alpha's nerves is going to be a great pleasure. That's because it's not properly protected, I said with bored tone. They have killed many wolves, he said, narrowing his eyes, ignoring my previous statement. Anything else? I inquired. What? He frowned at me. I rolled my eyes at him. It's like he know only two things, rogue attacks. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Other than that, his knowledge is zero. This pack can't survive if Alpha is such a CK head. There was a knock at door and our attention went to door. Jason exchanged looks with me and I just shrugged. His stance became stiff and he was in his protective mode. Come in, Daniel ordered, and door opened to reveal a boy. Well, a werewolf who had authority of Beta. Welcome, Dave. Daniel greeted, though his eyes were fixed on creature who entered the room after Dave. I can't blame him. She was damn beautiful. She had pale porcelain skin which was kind of strained for werewolf. I wondered if she was actually a werewolf and not any angel. Her eyes were emerald with a certain gleam in them I couldn't decipher. Her dark brown hairs were resting on her shoulders in bouncy waves. She smiled as she scanned the room. The air around us lifted at her arrival. She came in like rain in a desert. She was so innocent with her bright eyes. Her green eyes met mine and she flashed her perfect white teeth to me, which snapped me out of my haze, and I smiled at her. She was indeed the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in my life. I wondered if she was my mate. When my eyes fell on Jason and Will, they both had same awestruck look on their drooling faces. Close your mouths, I commanded through mind like which they followed, but that look didn't leave their faces. It was like they were in a trance. This girl was really beautiful. A growl erupted in background, and everyone finally snapped from whatever spell was put on them. Dave was the only one not affected. My immediate conclusion was that she was his mate, but it appeared to be wrong somehow. I knew she was not his mate, because the one to growl was not Dave but Daniel. Tangible anger was radiating from him, and he glowered at every male wolf. "I guess we should talk," Daniel said. Dave nodded at him and took a seat. "You can leave Seir. Stay at the adjoining room," he said in a stern tone. She cocked her head to side, her smile faltering at his words, but she nodded and left Troon nevertheless. Before closing the door, her eyes met mine, and I could have sworn I saw a flash of red in those emerald orbs. "I'm glad you bothered to come, for Kyle. I'm Dave, Beta of Moonstone Pack. I'm the one who sent Eric to you," Dave said, extending his hand, his tone formal. I could tell something was wrong, but he kept his voice formal. I was not sure who he wanted to rip throat, but whoever it was really messed with one person. "I'll be pleased to help you." I smiled at him. "I guess we should discuss the situation now." Chapter 11, Rogue at Agdaysp. Ovi, Wilson mind linked and told me that there was a rogue attack when we were in middle of a meeting. We immediately took off. I shifted into my wolf and ran towards the woods as fast as my paws could carry me. Alpha Kyle also accompanied us with his pack members. 7 other members from our pack joined us in our way towards the site of attack. I was mentally praying no one was injured. The protectiveness of Daniel Overseer didn't fit well with me. I wanted to slit his throat when he was glowering at Alpha Kyle. I don't know what Sierra was. Her wolf was dead, so she couldn't shift. Only her mate Bond was keeping her the werewolf scent and among us. There were about 10 rogues here, but their number is increasing. They are almost 30 now. Wilson mind linked me. "We are coming. Keep fighting and don't let them take anyone with them." "Okay, Beta." "It's strange. Rogues are never in this great number. They start fighting with each other before coming together in great number, and eventually their alliance or whatever gather is. It ends. 30 werewolves attacking together in our territory is not a good sign." Sound of rustle. Thuds and growls greet us as we approach fight scene. Our wolves were attacked by ugly red-eyed wolves. I immediately lunged towards one of them, tacking it to ground. I bit at its shoulders with my fangs, eliciting a howl of pain from it. My paw sunk in its skin and it went limp under me. With a growl, I went to another wolf who was attacking one of my pack members. Blood dripped from the stomach of the grey wolf while red-eyed wolf had its teeth still under its skin. Anger boiled inside me and I saw Ed. I took no time to jump on the rogue and bit it on the back, taking a chunk of off flesh, tossing it aside. The wolf howled and I took one of its legs in my teeth before shaking it violently and smashing it against a tree. There were so many wolves. Members of Blue Moon were attacking rogues as if they were ragdolls. It was a good sign. At least today these rogues can't cause much damage. My eyes fell on the small wolf against the tree, terrified as a big wolf growled at it. I rushed towards them and attacked the growling wolf with my teeth against it, neck and snapping it with an audible crunch of bones. I turned to look at the small wolf that was now standing on its fore, and then something changed in its expressions. It growled and immediately turned around, sensing danger, but found nothing behind me. There was no rogue as I had expected. When I looked back at the small wolf, it had a confused expression on its face. A howl came from right, and I looked at a rogue lying down with blood dripping from the point which was supposed it to be its leg, but instead there was a red hole. There was no other werewolf around it. Who might have killed it? I retreated back to fight as I heard my pack members howling. After 20 minutes, we had 5 injured pack members and 13 dead rogues. Throw them outside the territory. I ordered one of the pack members. We ran towards a lake which was only a few meters away to get rid of disgusting rogue blood on our furs. Alpha Kyle was an impressive midnight blue wolf. He was big and powerful. If there's a fight between Daniel and him, Daniel would be defeated within 5 seconds. Wolves of Blue Moon Pack are all huge. Even the she-wolf is bigger than Eric but smaller than me. After cleaning ourselves, we ran towards the pack house where Daniel was waiting for us. He didn't go because he couldn't shift. I feel bad for him. He can be easily overthrown. But everyone is afraid of Daniel's dad. No one can go against him. If it wasn't for Mr. Wayne, Daniel's time period would have ended for months ago where he was unable to shift while an attack. I had to step in and save him. Daniel is a weak helper, and it is not good for our pack. I hope Sierra's presence can bring some change in him. I'm not his biggest fan, but I care for this pack if not him. What took you so long? Daniel asked in a clipped tone. I knew something was wrong. He was completely pissed off. There were more than 20 wolves. We killed majority of them and others ran away. I think 2 or 3 rogues had been captured. Alpha Kyle is planning on questioning them. I told him, frowning still in confusion at his tone. I couldn't smell, always horny Shay, scent which meant she was not here. What was ticking him off? He nodded at me and walked towards the door. I hope I didn't sound like an overprotective housewife with my next question. Where are you going? I asked that because Daniel doesn't use his brain. There was a recent rogue attack, and if he is planning to go for a run, then he is biggest fool in werewolf history, which is most probably true. He can't even shift to his wolf. Going outside in human from his red alert. For a run. Scratch probably. It's certainly. There was a rogue not half an hour ago. Are you really planning to go for a run now? There were several occasions when he'd fight with Shay and then we'd go for a run. Usually what I warn him against it. He listens, but today, I really don't know what's wrong. He ignored me and went outside, slamming door behind him. The wooden rake landed on floor with a thud. My eyes widened. Since when Daniel has this amount of energy? I was to follow him outside, but a voice stopped me. Let him go, Sierra said. I've noticed this thing. Her voice is different from before. It's almost like honey to ears. If she sings a lullaby to me, I will sleep like a 2-month-old. But he's an alpha. He can take care of himself. If you babysit him everywhere, he might not take his responsibilities. But that's if he stays alive, I argued. As much as I hate Daniel for rejecting my sister or whatever the hell, I don't really want him dead by hands of rogue. I'd like to do that myself. He will stay alive. Trust me, Dave. He will stay alive. I'm his mate. I didn't want to agree but nodded anyway. The trust card really got me. What happened to him? I asked with a frown. She didn't answer, but the smirk she had me suspect she was involved in it. You're just back from a rogue act, Dave. Manny must be waiting for you. Wilson has already shown Kyle and his pack members their rooms. You should take rest now. I didn't want to leave but nodded anyway. I really wanted to see Manny after events of the day. Chapter 12. Jealous Alpha Daniels POV. I was so angry. So frustrated by her. What does she think herself to be? Flashback, why didn't you go with them? Sierra asked me as soon as Dave and the outside pack left. I'm unable to shift. I told her. It was a lie. I shifted yesterday after for long months. It felt good to let my wolf out, but also a load of irritation because all he did was scolding me. He is still angry over my idea of rejecting Sierra, but I think it's for the best. I want her to accept my rejection, and I have to get my plan on work for that. It would have been better if Shay was here, but her absence will do too. It must be really frustrating to know that your pack members are fighting for survival of this pack while Alpha is sitting in his room like a worthless pup, she said in a sickeningly sweet voice. She meant to taunt me with her words, and I would be lying if I say those pricking words didn't do their job. I did feel worthless sometimes, and it angers me so much. I blame myself inability to shift. It was my fault from starting. If I had Sierra as my mate, this might have not happened. But I couldn't have her as my mate. I was in love with Shay back then. If Sierra hadn't entered in my life, things would have been so perfect. I will shift soon and she will take her words back. I'm going to show her that I'm not worthless anymore, but my main motive is to get her accept my rejection. Yeah, but Shay had been with me whenever I needed her. I told her, watching her reaction. She merely batted her eyelashes at the mention of her name. All she did was stare at me with that fake warm glare, while I knew there was blazing fire in depth of those green orbs. Oh, it didn't sound disappointed but rather surprised. Not the kind of reaction I was expecting. Where's she now? I faintly remember Shay going somewhere in morning. She had told me where she was going, but when I searched inside my head, I come up with nothing. It's not my fault. She goes outside every other day. How am I supposed to remember where did she go today? I was not planning to tell Sierra that. She will definitely make fun of me over the fact that I don't my mate's whereabouts. Let me think what that place is called. I said, squeezing my eyes shut in order to mind link with Shay. That hard to remember. Yeah, pretty much. I murmured and finally got hold of Shay. Where the hell are you? I asked through mind link. I'm shopping with Lydia and Delilah. I told. I cut off the mind link. She's with Lydia and Delilah. I told Sierra with triumphant smile. Sometimes this mind link thing can be really helpful. Sierra smirked at me and for a moment I thought she saw through my cheat, but there was no way she could find out about that. When her wolf died, her common connections with the pack snapped. The thought of her dead wolf made my wolf whimper. A sudden sadness washed over me, but I masked it with neutral expression. I wanted to go out with her, but the arrival of Blue Moon Pack made me change my plans. But we had fun last night. I'm looking forward for when she returns. I told with a smirk on my face. Those words would have really stung, but she merely recoiled at my words. A smirk appeared on her face. Yeah, talking about Blue Moon Pack. I think their alpha is really something, she said, leaning back on her chair, her eyes staring intently into mine. A pang of jealousy hit me, but I kept my face blank. Something. I rested my arms on table and raised my eyebrow, mostly daring her to speak anything in his favor. Didn't you notice it? How could you? You're a male wolf and not a female one, even though you sit at home like heavily pregnant she-wolf. But I must say the boy had got muscles and all. She bit her lower lip and I fisted my hands. She insulted me and praised another wolf in front of her mate. How dare she do that? Anger rose inside me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading Kishut's enthusiasm. I would like to go to washroom. She stood up and left me in my office burning with anger. Her words stung, really bad. I'm here at disadvantage. I can't even take care of my pack. There's a battle going outside there where my pack members are fighting. Not only my pack members but outside pack also, and all I'm doing here is trying to taunt my mate so she accepts my rejection. Past few months flashed inside my head. Dave had told me many times about rogue attacks and how many pack members had died. I never cared about them. I never thought what it'd be like losing someone you love. Losing Sierra was a shock. It was my fault, but still it was something unbearable. I was so pent up in my sorrow that I never cared for anyone, and now I feel like a complete moron. How could I have been so inconsiderate about my own pack? I can shift, but still I'm sitting here. But I want to get rid of Sierra. As soon as she accepts my rejection, everything will be fine. I should have done it the moment I found out she was my mate. Or you should have never parted with her. My wolf argued and I growled at him. Flashback ends. I push my feet against the crust, running as fast as I could. Why it feels like it's my fault. No, I can't think that. I can't think it's my fault. It will make me weak. Dad always said, if you think it's your fault, you can never win. I ran until I reached a lake. The cold breeze was enough to soothe my senses. The entire bustle in my head finally came to a stop and I shifted back to my human form. It would have been good if I was carrying clothes with me. Naked man outside of a lake doesn't sound really bad though. I must say your judgment is really underground. I heard a very familiar voice. Sierra was leaning against a tree with her arms folded. She looked incredibly beautiful under moonlight. Her face reflected the shining lake water. The green of her eyes looked so entrancing. I didn't want to look away. Her face had fairness. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading Kishut's enthusiasm. I wanted to touch her milky skin and run my head in her midnight black hairs. She is so beautiful. What are you doing here? I asked, her standing up. A surge of pride rushed through me when her eyes took in my 6-packs. I smirked at her, waiting for her to blush. Nice body, I must say. 6-packs. She smirked and her eyes met mine. Carl has 8-packs. But you're still good. Kyle is just better. My smirk fell, replaced by a frown. My insides boiled and I snarled at her obvious insult. Did I make Mighty Alpha angry? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, thoughts of thanks her unfailing patience, enthusiasm, she said with everything but remorse in her voice. I glared at her. Just like Shay has better figure. I spat at her. She also has ABS. I never knew. She sounded surprised. She's better than you. I told her, meaning to hurt her feelings in every way possible. You will like to take your words back, Alpha. Even you know I'm better than her, or you wouldn't have been checking me out when you saw me here. And you were checking me out. And you received your share of praise. Though it was less than what Kyle got, she said in a taunting voice. I clenched my jaw and narrowed my eyes at her. Stop comparing me to him, I said through gritted teeth. Well, when the alphas are insane territory, insane house, it's hard not to. I mean, what will people think when they find out that the Alpha of Moonstone pack couldn't go to defend his walls when there was rogue attack in his territory, but Alpha of Blue Moon pack did, even though it was not his own pack? I couldn't shift, I argued. Then what's the advantage of being Alpha? Though there are always disadvantages of being weak Alpha for the pack. Shut up, I growled at her. Well, now I know what he meant. Words said in face gain more response than words said behind back. But I was only stating the truth. She shrugged casually. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I told her with my eyes flashing dangerously. If she doesn't stop it right now, I will definitely strangle her. I know. But you need me to tell you what to do because your fake mate hardly does that. She told me and I turned my expressions cool. So this is all about her. You're jealous of her, I shouted at her. She scoffed at me. You don't know what jealousy is, Daniel. But you will know it. And you will regret saying that to me. I'm not killing for your love, Daniel. I'm killing for your pain, she said in an excruciatingly cold, calm voice that sent chills to my spine, and then she disappeared into the forest. Chapter 13, Wilson Carter Sarah's POV. That was not supposed to happen. How could I lose control of my emotions in front of that dog? I can't show him my true emotions. It's true, I feel not Everest high hatred for him, but there's still this cruel fact that he's my mate. I can't reject him. Not until I show him who holds the leash. And for that I have to keep my emotions in check. When he said I was jealous of Shay, I completely lost it because I am jealous of her. If it wasn't for her, I could have been living a better life. I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have felt heartbreak. I wouldn't have left my brother and my best friend behind. I wouldn't have felt the pain of my wolf dying, but she is not to be blamed completely. Alpha and fake Luna of this pack row end my life. And not in helping this pack. Just because my brother is in this pack. I know he will never leave his pack duties. He will give his life for this pack, for the Alpha. My revelation of Daniel being my mate took his trust on him, though, and if Daniel tries to learn his mistake, Dave will give that respect back. And then there is this fact. Dave doesn't know Daniel rejected me. What will happen if he comes to know about it? Daniel will lose, big deal. Dave will kill him. Not exactly, but he will definitely lose his cool. But I don't want to be in between their friendship. A part of me knows Daniel is not bad, just he lacks smartness, which is not healthy for an Alpha and his pack. And combination of Daniel and Shay as Alpha and Luna is definitely fatal. I clenched my jaw and went to kitchen for something to eat. The wolf-ish part of me still craves for food, and the fact I haven't actually eaten for whole day made my stomach growl. I have to satisfy my hunger with edible food, or I will end up killing someone. As soon as I stepped inside kitchen, I spotted a black-haired werewolf standing against the counter with a glass of water. His eyes landed on me and he smiled. What are you doing here? He asked, cocking his head. His brown skin glowed. He was really handsome. And with that smile and pearly white teeth, he looked more than amazing. I remember him from high school. He was neither popular as Daniel nor nerd as me. He was an average cute pup. I'm hungry, I told him, reaching for fridge. What are you going here? I asked him. I peeped into his mind. Wilson Carter. He said dreamily, taking another sip was water. At such tender age, be careful, your hair will turn white faster than you have kids. Yeah. Then my kids will be puzzled who is father and who is grandfather. I shook my head with a smile on my face. What are you thinking about? I inquired with a bar of granola. I sat opposite to him. His glass was half filled with water, and he was sipping at a little Japanese green tea. Stuff. What type of stuff? How will I dye my hair black every day? He said, smiling ever so slightly. Who's your mate? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Maybe she was someone from high school. Someone I know. I haven't found my mate yet. He answered with sighing in his voice. It was surprising. Most of the male werewolves find their mates the night of their first shift. If they don't, they can still shift, but it's painful. In case of she-wolf, she cannot shift until she finds her mate. I found Daniel. That's another matter. Things didn't turn out right between us. If I hadn't found out he was my mate, I could have shifted successfully. Once a wolf senses their mate's wolf, it needs them during shift. My wolf had sensed Daniel's wolf, and it was somehow dependent of his wolf. If Daniel was there, I shook my head, throwing all thoughts out of the window. You've searched the pack. I raised an eyebrow. I guess she is not from this pack. He grumbled. About 80% find their mates in same pack. Rest of them either find their mates or don't find them at all. I wonder if I will ever find her. Don't worry, Wilson. You'll find her. You will find her soon. I assured him, because I had a strong feeling he will be one of the lucky ones to find his mate. And promise me one thing: you will take care of her no matter what. I said that from my personal experience. I don't want any other she-wolf to have same fate as mine. I'm lucky one here, but everyone can't be. Of course I will. I don't want to be biggest fool on earth. I raised my eyebrows. Biggest fool. A smirk played on my lips. A werewolf who rejects his mate will definitely be the biggest fool. I don't want to be one of them, he told me. Won't spending time with them make you a fool too? I would never hang out with such a fool. I smirked mentally at the irony. Biggest fool on the earth, Daniel. I can totally agree with that one. And tomorrow he will be the biggest jealous fool on earth. Chapter 14. Revenge Plan. Kyle's P.O.V. After 3 hours of training Moonstone pups, we finally had time for rest. That was a long day. Alpha 2nd and 3rd in command are better than any other wolf. I don't think they need training, but rest of wolves. Well, calling them wolves is a shame to wolves. They are mere pups. They can easily be defeated by rogues or any other pack. There are some wolves which are really good, but majority of them are only to scare humans without aid. We are here to teach pups. Will grumbled. Even pups can do better than them. Those mutts think they are invincible when they can hardly stand against a gust of wind. Don joined. Jason was with his mate Hallie. Will and Don have not found their mates yet, and I'm sure that day is not far away. Both are amazing warriors from my pack. I think we should send Jason back. This pack will require about a month. I can't let the pack to feed on their own for that long. Jason will take care of everything. I put forward my views. Jason and Allie will leave. Can't you call someone other? I mean some other warriors from pack to teach these pups? Will argued. We can't do that. We are here to help. Sure, we will help. Indirectly. I rolled my eyes. We are staying, I said with finality in my voice. He sighed and nodded his head. There was silence that engulfed the atmosphere. It was dreading until Will decided to break it. You're staying so that you can hump the Luna. Right. We were in living room after Jason and Dahi left. Will and Don were constantly complaining to me. They wanted to go back to pack because this one was like teaching alphabet to an infant. They tried to mind link me, but I blocked and asked them to voice their thoughts, but of course they could not do that because 3rd in command and Eric were also there. Will and Don dare not to mess with them in their territory. I thought about this pack and another encounter with Luna. It was almost terrifying to find Luna of the pack you were staying with inside your bathroom waiting for you, in nothing but a towel which hardly covered around behind. For a holy wolf like me, it was almost impossible to refuse her seductions. When I went back to my room wrapped in a floral scent, I was on high alert. My little friend also went on high alert when she tried to seduce me by dropping that only piece of cloth covering her petite frame. Usually I wouldn't have minded and took advantage of the situation if his mate was Alpha and didn't have any capability to set loose his whole pack on me. She seemed angry when I refused her advances. She knew what she was doing to me by that smirk on her face when her eyes noticed my predicament down there. I had two problems. Luna and my two warriors. "Hey Alpha Kyle," a beautiful voice said. I stared into the emerald orbs of the heavenly face that belonged to the same girl I met yesterday. I cocked my head to side trying to remember her name. She is Dave's sister. What is her name? I knew it yesterday. Am I growing older fast? In Sarah Winters. She introduced herself and that I relived the memory when Daniel had said her name as if he was going to kill anyone who set it apart from him. "Hey Sarah." I said it anyways. It's not like she is Daniel's mate, and he will explode if I flirt with her. "You're in deep thoughts." She took the seat at my side, her left arm caressing my right with so much tenderness. Her flesh was the softest Ivy ever felt. It was more like softness of a petal. "So many things to think about," I said, rubbing my saddle. Her eyes noticed movement of my hand. What they could be. She leaned forward with interest. She had a smirk on her face. I never thought she had one of a kind to flirt with anyone. Her face is a complete reflection of innocence. I was startled for a moment before coming back to my senses. "One of them is what a beautiful girl like you is sitting with a skunk like me?" I asked, leaning forward, running my finger along her other arm. Her smirk grew at my action, but her eyes challenged me to continue with what I was doing, and I accepted the challenge and slid my finger across her wrist and intertwined her fingers with mine. Her grip on my hand was loose. It was only wrapped around mine, not so perfectly, but that was enough. Maybe she's a tentative flirt, but I'm an experienced one. I take full advantage of a situation when I get one. "You're not a skunk," she said casually, and then leaned forwards so that her breath trickled my cheek and then went to my ear. "More like a hot, sexy beast." Her voice sent chills to my body that shivered involuntarily. It was impossible. I never react to a girl's seduction. My little man does, but I never. She's not even my mate, so how her voice can have this effect on my body. She pulled back with a satisfied smirk on her face. My eyes, which were wide open, returned to their normal size. My mind was completely jumbled up with her single action. It made me think about myself again and again. What the heck just happened? This girl didn't even react to me, and my body went overdrive with her simple action. This is a huge blow to my ego. I leaned forward so that our faces were only inches apart. "Would you like to have some fun with this sexy beast?" I asked, waiting for her reaction. Her eyes were trained on my lips, and I knew I was going in the right direction. When she licked her lip, I nearly exploded. There was nothing I wanted more than to kiss her pink plump lips. Without thinking, I closed the remaining distance between us, only to be disturbed by a thunderous growl. Sarah was back in her sitting position. Her eyes widened for a second before they went back to their normal size. They had a glint of amusement in them. Those green eyes never left mine. I broke the eye contact to look at the person with red face. Daniel's eyes were red with rage, something that happens with Alpha. My eyes also turned red like those when I'm extremely angry, as when someone had broken all the limits. It's nearly impossible to control in a situation like this. I watched in my peripheral vision other wolves cringing back at the sight of insanely angry Alpha. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Sarah nodded her head to Daniel, who glared at me. I actually felt uncomfortable under his scrutinizing glare. Even I can't deny that Daniel has an air around him that will make you follow his command. It's confusing why he can't take care of his own pack. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Go to your room," Daniel said through clenched teeth. I frowned at his reaction. She nodded and headed upstairs. My eyes followed her every moment. When she was at last stare, she turned around to wink at me, and I returned it with one of my own robotically. She then disappeared, and I turned to look at Daniel, who was murdering me brutally with his eyes. "Stay away from her," he growled at me. I frowned. "Why? It's not like she's your mate, and she doesn't have a mate at all. If she is fine with me, why do you have a problem?" I asked, crossing my arms over my chest. Previous suspicions I had about him and Sarah flooded back. "Something is wrong," he growled at me. "She's under my protection. so I would rather you stay away from her." He spat at me before disappearing in one of the rooms. I stood there in bewilderment for a few seconds. "What's wrong with him?" I asked casually. "Alpha Kyle. It's almost night now. Would you like to go to your room?" Eric asked me and I nodded my head. Sorry for Alpha's behavior. "Achia's not usually like this," Eric said when we were front of my room. Even he sounded unsure at last statement. I just nodded my head. "Seriously, what is wrong with this pup?" Chapter 15, Traitor Shears P. OV. My body is still copying with roughness of last night. It was mind-blowing though. But what is more intriguing is the fact why Daniel was like that last night. Ever since Sarah have returned, Daniel has been acting weirdly. It's getting a little exhausting spending every night with him, and I have to get another prey for change in scenery. Kyle is the perfect choice. When I was going to seduce Kyle last night, he was already busy flirting with Sarah, who was returning the favor. It made me angry. But Daniel standing at the doorframe was confusing. He had all the expressions written on his face I wanted to see. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Betrayal. It made me happy to see him hurt. I closed my eyes thinking about those beautiful silvery grey eyes, them skin and dirty blonde hairs. Every time his face pops in my brain, a sudden surge of pain flows through my body and my wolf whines. The kiss we shared on my birthday was the best. It was nothing as compared to Daniel. But he rejected me. My mate rejected me. Cain rejected me. When he saw Daniel's mark on my neck, he rejected me. I told him that my connection with him was stronger than that with Daniel, but he still rejected me. This is Daniel's fault. If he hadn't marked me, I could have been with Cain. If Daniel hadn't contaminated my mind, my life could have been happier. I asked Daniel to keep Cain in dungeons so that I could have him whenever I wanted instead of letting him go where he demanded. I cowed and give up the position of Luna of this pack. It was too much to lose. The power that comes with Luna would have gone. My luxuries would have gone. Cain was a rogue. He wouldn't have provided me anything. No safety, no money, no power or no new clothes. He could only give me pleasure I always wanted, something that Daniel can never give. I'm sure it could have been the best sex of my life. But Daniel asked him to leave the territory and never come back. I am so angry with Daniel. I hate him for that. After giving myself to him, all he did was to let my mate leave just like that. And he never looked back. I still remember the look of disgust he gave me when he left. He freaking called me a whore when I've ever slept with Daniel only. That bastard doesn't let me sleep with anyone else. I couldn't live a happy life with Daniel, and I always wanted to get revenge on him after that. After witnessing anger and hurting Daniel while Sarah and Kyle were flirting, my previous suspicions became true. I knew someone was Daniel's mate. I researched about all those girls who claimed to be Daniel's mate on his birthday. While every other she-wolf was already living with their mate, I had lost hope. That stupid letter of Sarah read that she was with a rogue who was her mate. But now I think that rogue wasn't her mate. Someone else's, and I know who he is. It's time to take my revenge. Daniel kept my mate away from me. He hurt me. Now I will hurt him. I will destroy both of them. Dave's P. Ovi, are you sure about this? I asked while leaning back on the chair, studying the map while my brain was busy absorbing the information. A part of me didn't want to believe him, but the other part knew he was correct. There is someone from our pack who is giving information to rogues. There's a traitor. He told me. I sat there silently. From the recent rogue attacks, we have caught some rogues. One of them, a weak rogue, revealed that there is someone from our own pack helping them. Their plan is to destroy our pack before Wayne arrives. The defense of our pack is good even though Alpha is not strong. They are mainly targeting Alpha. I wish Daniel could shift into his wolf form. No matter how big of jerk he had been, he is still my Alpha. The thought of pain my sister must have gone through due to him makes me want to rip his head off his body, but I restrain myself. I hope Sarah make everything alright. I don't want her to be with him, but I know it's the pain of being separated from one's mate is. I can't stay away from Manny for a day. how Daniel managed to do it for a year, though he started showing signs of withdrawal after a few months. But now that Sarah is back, he should be able to shift. Can Sarah's loss of her wolf affecting him? I don't know what to think about it. For now I have to focus on safety of Pack. I may get plenty of time to think about these things later on. I have to make sure everyone is safe. Most importantly, I have to find this traitor. I kissed Manny as soon as I entered the front door. She responded, immediately sensing my stress. Without any intention, the kiss grew heated. All stress and tension disappeared slowly as I enjoyed the feel of my mate in my arms. Someone cleared their throat, forcing me to pull away from Manny. Standing at the corner was Sarah with hand covering her eyes. "Are you done yet?" she asked with strain in her voice. I rolled my eyes. Manny was to open her mouth, but I stopped her with a kiss. "Not yet," I mumbled and continued to taste Manny's addicting lips. I knew I had to stop, but it seemed nearly impossible. I faintly heard my sister in background saying something like kids these days. She's only 1 week older than me and a day older than Manny. Still she acts like grandmother. I pressed Manny against the door when I knew Sarah was no longer in sight and kissed her thoroughly. I moaned when she tugged at my hairs. Things were getting very heated when she pulled away. But that didn't stop me. I dropped kisses along her jaw to her neck to delicate skin. "We need to stop." Manny breathed and gasped when I licked her mark. "I don't want to." I groaned, traveling up her neck to her face and cleaned her mouth. Sarah," she mumbled in between kisses. I reluctantly pulled away. Sarah won't let me live it down if I have sex with Manny with her presence in this house. Especially against the door. Knowing Sarah, she won't ever step inside this door and prefer back door or even windows to enter. I gave Manny last kiss before walking to living room. Sarah was sitting on couch watching television without any care of world. She didn't look like a heartbroken girl whose mate didn't want her. She looked like she was enjoying something. "What brings you here, sis?" Her head snapped in my direction and she stared at me strangely. "You could at least try to hide that you are almost making love with your mate not 12 feet away from me." She shook her head in disgust. I rolled my eyes again, trying to settle my hairs, which stood like I got an electric shock. Well, every kiss from Manny was like a mini electric shock. First 3 buttons of my shirt were unbuttoned and it was slightly wrinkled. After fixing everything, I took a seat on the other couch. Sarah would definitely kick me if I tried to sit at her side right now, especially when I was almost going to make love with Manny. "You're in good mood today," I said, still wondering what type of mating bond she has with Daniel. I was in good mood, until I saw my brother and my best friend eating each other's face. She shuddered. I just shook my head with a faint smile on my face. "Daniel was really jealous yesterday. He looked like he lost a batter," she said with a smile on her face. It was as if she had won $1 billion lottery. Her eyes shinned with victory. "What happened?" "Something." "Leave it. You look stressed." "What happened?" she asked me, changing the topic. "To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Hearts out, thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "There's a problem," I said, shaking my head. "A traitor in Pack." "Well, that's a big problem," she said casually. My head snapped at her. "How do you know that?" I don't remember ever telling her that. "You're my brother, Dave. I know you very well." Your expressions scream of betrayal. There can be 2 reasons for that: fault in mate, fault in Pack. There's no problem with the mate because you were pouncing at her like a horny love-sick drunk teenager not 5 minutes ago. Then there is Pack. Someone from Pack betrayed. I don't trust this Pack very much and am always doubtful about the member because of Daniel. And you didn't deny it. She told me and I blinked at her eyes, surprise. She's observant. "So, who's the big buddy?" she asked, leaning back on couch casually. "I don't know," I grumbled, rubbing my hands on my face. "Don't be stressed, Dave. You will find him or her or then eventually," she said, shrugging her shoulder. My head snapped in her direction. I stared at her wide-eyed. "What? Did I say anything wrong?" she asked, frowning at me. "To my agent extraordinaire, Mythical Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I have never thought There can be more than one. I groaned. How am I gonna find them? You will find them, Dave. Don't think too much about it. Daniel is safe. He's in Pack House. There is Kyle and his pack. They will protect him if anything goes wrong. And I believe Daniel is capable of protecting himself. So just relax. Her words made me feel better. I let out a long sigh of relief. Okay. I nodded and she smiled at me, hugging me. Are you staying for dinner? I asked when she pulled away. Of course I am. Manny will kill me if I don't stay. She has been inside kitchen since evening, she said, and I chuckled. Manny is a passionate cook and a passionate lover. I can't wait for Tamil's ingoting tonight. Chapter 16, Finding Mate Sarah's POV. It's been 2 weeks since I arrived. There was no other encounter with Daniel after that Kyle incident. He has been ignoring me like a plaque, and I've been sticking my nose in his business ever since then. It's getting him frustrated. Hey Sarah, where are you going? Someone asked me. I turned on my heels to find Kyle crossing his arms over his chest. His muscles flexed with the moment. I'm going for shopping. I shrugged casually. I'm also going for shopping, but I'm not familiar with this place. Will you help me? He asked me, and I nodded, walking towards him. Fine, I mumbled as he led me to his car. He might be thinking what has happened to me. I was flirting like Shay with him yesterday, and today I'm hardly trying to make a proper conversation with him. But hey, I'm helping him. That counts for something. Would you mind if Will also join us? He asked me as we were near to his car. Will was already in back seat playing with his phone. I don't know what they do with their phones. Maybe the distance from their pack hinders with the mind link. That's why they need it for communication. Hey Sarah. Will looked at me when I entered the passenger seat as Kyle opened door for me. Kai Will. I smiled at him, buckling my seatbelt. You know about local supermarket. I want so many things. I'm running out of proper clothes, he said, cocking his head. His grey eyes gazed at me. I was going there. Now I have company. What happened to your clothes? I asked, leaning back on my seat. I can't even find their vestiges. They all got torn while shifting. He grumbled, crossing his arms over his chest, and puffed his cheeks in anger. I chuckled at his childish display of annoyance. We will get you new clothes then. I looked out of the window as houses sprinted past the car while Kyle and Will talked about their pack. I shut out their conversation and enjoyed my own silence. Once we parked, Will was practically jumping up and down. I had never thought of him as a playful kind of boy. Sure, I've seen him ogling his legs or her, but sometimes I could only imagine him as a pervert, but I don't think he's one now. What do you think about this one? Will asked, holding a T-shirt in front of his torso. I shook my head. It was a black color T-shirt with lines in bigger than you think. Why? You say no to every T-shirt I pick. He whined in a childish tone. It's a warning, don't get moved by his childish behavior. He is still a pervert. Hey Will, try this one. A blood-red T-shirt came flying and smacked Will right on his face. It fell down and Will scowled at Kyle before holding it in front of him. I'm not silly. I suck Willie written on it. I burst out in a fit of laughter, and Will glared at Kyle, who just smirked. Well, Willie. Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I grinned at Will, who still had a scowl on his tan face. Shut up, he grumbled, throwing the T-shirt back to Kyle. I heard sound of giggling coming from left, where two girls stood looking at Will. When Will noticed this, he turned into a beetroot. What are you laughing at? Leave. He yelled at them, and both hurried away from him. Will launched himself on Kyle, and I chuckled at them before leaving them on their own. I have to buy new shoes. My sneakers are not really enough good to walk in woods. I need something better that can maintain enough friction to prevent my fall. I don't want to bleed in forest and attract trouble. While I was testing various shoes, I heard a giggle. A very familiar one. Shay was standing with a red head. They both were dressed in what I can call clothes of 5-year-old. The amount of skin their dresses showed was enough for horny werewolf to get all wrong ideas. Some werewolves were even eyeing them, and they were giggling when they noticed the attention they got. Shay went as far as winking at a human who grew thousands shades of red at a jar. I rolled my eyes and got back to fit my feet in new red and black shoes. They can do whatever they want. Who am I to judge? As long as they are away from me. In fine. Look who's here. I heard the same voice and groaned internally. I mouthed some curses, still facing away from them, before turning around with a sweet smile on my face. It was not a problem before, but since last few days Shay had been watching me like a hawk in pack house. When Daniel is unable to ignore me, she makes sure he doesn't make a conversation with me. I think she knows Daniel is my mate. Maybe he had told her. I mean, she knew she was not his mate, so there must be someone, and he might have told her that I'm the one. But I'm not exactly sure about it. Redhead eyed me as if I was plaque. I remember her, one of She's followers. Who is this? Redhead asked with distaste. Feeling is mutual, dear. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't you remember her? Her mate was a rogue, but he ran away, after rejecting her. Poor girl lost her wolf, Shay said with fake sympathy in her voice. I wanted to throttle her. And what is this about my mate running away after rejecting me? What are you talking about? I frowned at her. Daniel told me about your tragedy. I almost feel bad for you. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Who will feel a thing for a worthless girl like you? She said it with a sinister smile. If I didn't know Daniel was not her mate, I would have seriously felt bad at her words. Who is she to say me those things when she herself doesn't know about whereabouts of her own mate? I heard Daniel's thoughts on what he did to She's mate. She wanted her mate, but Daniel took him away from her. Or should I say her rogue mate willingly left her. We are on the same page. She is rejected by her mate. I'm rejected by her mate. It's another matter I didn't accept her rejection and she did. I wonder why she accepted the rejection. Her mind is a mystery to me. Not that I'm interested to solve it. Definitely not you. And I don't need pity. I'm fine the way I am now. With your mate providing me protection every time. I shrugged casually with an urge to stomp on her pride. To stand against her. To show her down. I knew it was wrong and Blake would never approve of it, but I cowed and helped myself. Was it jealousy? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Werewolf popped out of nowhere. His eyes trailed up and down the frame of both the girls. I rolled my eyes. Typical boy you. He finished, returning his gaze back to me, his gaze not eyeing both girls. Shoes. I gestured the racks with my hand and he nodded. Kyle. She's irritating voice beeped. What are you doing here with this? She looked at me as if I was some kind of disease. I was shopping with this beautiful creature. He said, placing his hands on my shoulders from behind. I smirked at surprised look on her face before it was replaced by a nauseating smile. What a surprise for you then. You met a more beautiful creature. She giggled. I was confused at first, wondering why did she and her cherry-head friend had smug looks on their faces. It took only seconds to know what she meant. By the time I did, Kyle was laughing uncontrollably. I was silent while Shay was smirking heavily at me. Guess I lose today. I can't control Kyle now. Can I? That was a nice joke, Shay. Those words left Kyle's mouth and Shay's jaw dropped. Redhead widened her eyes, staring at Kyle as if he was creature from another world, which brought smirk on my face. Shay stood there glaring at me as if I spoke them and not Kyle. She eyed me up and down in disgust and scoffed. Did you find your shoes? Kyle asked, standing at my side. His arm went around my shoulder, which I didn't mind because he was not caressing my arm with his hand. I took it more as a friendly gesture, which was a risk to take because we were flirting 3 days ago. Yeah. I was looking for them when Shay and I trailed off, my eyes traveling back and forth between Shay and Redhead. Delia, Redhead said rudely to me. I had an urge to roll my eyes. Their inspiration is from Mean Girls. When Shay and Delilah showed up, I completed my sentence. Call me Luna. Shay spat at me, and I smirked at her. Okay, Luna. I said, feeling like a Batterson. She glared at me. Either a growl erupted from her throat. Okay. I can't do that. I will only end up getting a coughing fit if I try. Her expressions cooled and I smelled it in air. Similar scent of Daniel. Daniel, she said rather loudly and walked past us to my codmate standing behind few feet behind me. Shay. I heard his voice, which was following by kissing noises. When I turned around along with Kyle, both were sucking faces of each other like there was no tomorrow. I hated the fact that he responded to her kisses. And I hated that he accepted a girl who was not even his mate. My eyes were glued to the couple, which I pried away when there was a swift movement in background. Kyle immediately turned on his heels. His arm was still around my shoulder, which made me stumble, and I ended up losing my balance. I could have face planted on floor if Kyle's arm hadn't encircled around my waist, holding me tight to him. My face was buried in his hard chest. I pulled away in lightning speed, standing erect while Kyle stared at me, wide-eyed, clearly confused at my sudden reaction, but my eyes darted to Redhead and the blonde, who were looking at each other like love-struck teenagers. "You are my mate," Delilah said to Will before he crashed his lips with her.